Hi.
Some people, though, have contributed such a great deal to the blues.
That's Gil Scott-Heron in the background. And I will play Gil Scott-Heron later.
In particular phases of the blues after them. Like Joe Williams always sounded like a horn.
That's Jamie in the background. He's just standing there. And moving. But I'll play Gil Scott-Heron later. I wanted to start with Mark Bowman, who I really love so much, even more than Gil Scott-Heron, I think, at the beginning. Gil Scott-Heron record is probably the first record I ever bought. I think I'm on camera because we've noticed that on the telephone, I've got to go this way?
No, I'm saying you're on camera. You're good.
I'm on camera. Okay.
You're good.
We've been having a really hard time
We need to work out our hand signals.
Getting the camera to work because we have just started, excuse me, I'm in front of you and I open to me. We've just started using Google Hangouts, which is not normally what I use. And I've been working all this time with Wirecast, but it wasn't working. So we started Google Hangouts yesterday, and that's why there's been so many delays and so much, so many glitches. There you go. We wanted to
technical as thingy.
I wanted to be up, with a nice clean storage room, which you're not seeing. I wanted to be up much earlier than today, but today all sorts of stupidities, you're hitting me now. And I should say that my channel is The Girls with 200 IQ, and I am me. Looks like her, but it's me. We don't know what her IQ is because she only took a skills test. It's high. It's really high because she's my best friend. Yeah, I know that. But I took many IQ tests, and it's higher than 200. Don't ask me any math questions because I have no idea. However, you may ask me questions about Bernie Sanders and why I support him and why I would never, in any other presidential election that I was alive and able to vote for, have ever tried to make anything like a videotape in support or contributed much more than I can contribute. You can ask me about Bernie Sanders and why. I think he would be the best president all around for everyone. Now and for 8 years. And I can tell you that apparently, and she knows and she'll tell me, we've won Oklahoma, yes?
Yes, I'm going to check again. The last feed I looked, Oklahoma. He took Oklahoma.
He took Oklahoma. This was the South and the near South that we were very concerned about, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But Oklahoma, being won by Bernie Sanders, is a real interesting mark of his message getting across.
52 to 40.
52 to 40. He won Oklahoma by 12 points. We did not expect him to take the South. In fact, I believe Donald Trump has taken most of the South. Jamie can tell me, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm looking around here. Donald Trump has gotten almost everything he's got so far. Alabama, they're still counting Arkansas, Georgia, Massachusetts, Tennessee, and Virginia. I think the other ones they're still counting.
So he's gotten, and I will try and read it to me again, and I'll repeat it louder.
Okay. Alabama.
This is Trump.
Georgia.
Massachusetts, which is scary.
Tennessee. And
Virginia, which is also.
Some of these they're close.
Some of them are close. Because I know she's farther back. Please excuse all the clothes in this room. I sell clothes when I sell clothes, and I wear them all the time. Lots and lots of. But okay.
I think there's still some of them they're still counting.
Some of them they're still counting. What is the most worrisome, I think, is that he would get a New England state like Massachusetts. But what's most worrisome of all is that Donald Trump's message is getting across to people in ways that Bernie Sanders' message, which really includes everyone, is not. And we really need to look at what Donald Trump is doing. And there are a few things I want to say about Bernie Sanders that I don't think anyone else is saying. Because they're hard things to say. And as somebody who is obviously indeterminate at everything except for gender, I think I can say, and I will. Yeah, it's hard because I have to talk about my family who are all dead, and got a lot of makeup on. I'm gonna do my best not to have it fall like it's rigid. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are approaching the working class, especially the ethnic working class, in extremely different manners. Bernie Sanders actually comes from the civil rights movement. There are photos that he himself has identified as himself being arrested in 1963 for civil rights actions. Not just not yakking, actions. Because he believed in his heart that people are people, not just white people, black people, Jews, Latins, whatever they have them, because our categories have gotten smaller and smaller and more divisive as we've become a country and a Western world whose left wing is predicated and formed almost entirely by the easily manipulated, and also in some cases manipulative identity politics that anyone, regardless of what they actually think, can use in speech to render themselves on teams which they care nothing whatsoever about. This is the main thing I want to talk about, because I want people to understand where Bernie Sanders is coming from, and I don't think they do. Hillary Clinton has been spending a lot of time using identity. There's a lot of helicopters in my neighborhood. Not for me. Hillary Clinton has been spending a lot of time using identity politics buzzwords, hoping to get, and unfortunately getting, votes from people whose interests she not only doesn't care about at all, really, but whose policies will work directly against. It is easy to say things like, will economic theory and racism and force or encourage or, use what they call them, placards that say yell yes or no to your audience. It's easy to do that. Any sort of simple sloganeering using present buzzwords will get that kind of reaction from people who are not thinking historically, and who are already convinced that their candidate will help them. So when she says these things, there's no analysis, there's nothing analytical behind them. There is if there's a cartoon that says Black Lives Matter, and it's a lot of protesters, it's been ran around on Facebook the last couple of days. And then there's a picture of Hillary Clinton in the cartoon. And she's carrying a placard which says, Black Votes Matter. And that is Hillary Clinton to a T. If she thought she could get the title first woman president by courting giraffes, she would be wearing a placard that said, Giraffe Lives Matter. She is also coasting quite a bit on the record of her husband. What kind of arrangement they have as a married couple, I don't know. I know more about it, unfortunately, than I would have liked to. And there's something. But there's also the truth. There's two truths, in fact. One is that he grew up poor in Arkansas with Black people around and did care about at least specific Black people. She's a rich white woman. To say that all of a sudden, this woman, who was a Goldwater Republican until she was in her early 20s, suddenly became the champion of the poor is indefensible, unlikely, and untrue. We need to think beyond sloganeering. Identity politics gives everyone a way to say, just by using words and no actions, that they are on your team. Hillary Clinton is on Hillary Clinton's team. She believes that we should vagina vote, frankly. I usually call it crotch vote because I don't talk like that, but she believes that we should be voting for her because we are voting our crotch identity. She has taken her crotch and decided that all women over the age of 30, under the age of 30, it doesn't matter. Just because we were born a certain way, that means to Hillary Clinton that we feel she is entitled to become the next president. Her entitlement, always look for entitlement. That's true. It's been true forever. Her entitlement in her mind is to be the first woman president. I don't feel that it's my job to give someone a gift to which they feel entitled to have without them paying for it or doing anything for it or working for it other than by promoting themselves. And I am not, obviously, the only woman that feels that. And I am not the only woman over the age of 30 who feels that. And that's one of the reasons I created this channel, even with the clothing in the back. And Jenny, who needs to help me, and I'm sorry. I created this channel because it needs to be known that people, women, Black people, whoever, are more than just their basic identity and can think better, stronger, harder, and deeper than that. Furthermore, apologies for lecturing. I'm not much of a lecturer, but I'm trying to do this without crying. Furthermore, Bernie Sanders' politics are rooted in the old civil rights movement, where hers are not. She, regardless of, I can't remember his name all of a sudden, the guy who heads the PAC of, do you remember his name? I'm sorry, I should have been. It was the PAC, and I can't remember the Black Caucus.
Not John Lawrence.
John something. I apologize. I knew this last week.
Okay,
I'm-
Lawrence?
Not Lawrence.
Okay, sorry.
It's a different one. That's a different person. For one thing, it wasn't the entire. Nobody voted on that. He just decided it, and the only votes were about 5 people. Excuse me for not remembering this. I've been working really hard on getting the channel going, including trying to clear out my storage space, but it didn't happen. And I knew it last week, and I lost it now. But it's very important to understand that the people he used a Hillary Clinton tactic and disregarded the votes of his actual not constituents, it's close. The people that are in his committee, in order to say, well, I saw Hillary Clinton during the Civil Rights Movement, which was not true. This is the last time I'm going to do this. I apologize.
It's not done, but he is ahead in Colorado, 53 to 42.
Thank you. Would you like to say it louder?
Okay, right now Sanders is ahead in Colorado. It's not done, but according to the feed I'm looking at, 53 to 42
53 to 42 in Colorado
so far.
so far. I hope he wins Colorado. I didn't want to see my second husband, or I would have maybe gone to Colorado to work on his campaign, but you got me this way. And now, because I'm embarrassed about forgetting, she'll look it up. She'll look up the name of because it was deeply disturbing to me. I'll post a link of the best person I've ever seen talk on this issue underneath here if anyone watches this. What I want to say is really this. While she can get people who perhaps owe her favors to say they saw her during the Civil Rights Movement, she was not there. He wasn't asking for favors. And he was there because it mattered to him. Now, I come from a hard left background, much farther to the left than this. And I want to talk about what the Civil Rights Movement meant, because it didn't mean identity politics. That came in later. At first, it was fine. It was Black is Beautiful because there was a reason for it. What has happened with identity politics is it's been turned around so it can be used by others. He instead still believes what he believed then. It's not to hurt Black people, because he does not see Black people as Black people. He sees, and I'm sure of this, I grew up around many, many people just like him. He sees people as people. He wants the rising tide to raise all boats, the smallest ones first, because they need the raising the most. He's not going to come out and say, will economic theory help Black people? Or end racism is even stupider. Mainly because it will. Economic theory will help end racism, sexism, all sorts of isms, whatever you want. It will help end what causes most of those isms, which is economic inequality. And the left that he comes from was an extremely committed left. Nothing like what you have now. There was not a lot of opportunism in it. It really wanted to make sure that everyone had the most basic things that people need. Good health care, not just waiting in line at county for thousands of hours, but good health care. The same kind of health care Donald Trump could get should be available to us all. It doesn't matter if you're Latino or no, all of us, even me, you know, all of us. It means that, because I come from union people, from IWW, IWO. It means you work a 40-hour week. You get paid for your 40 hours. You don't have to do free overtime. You get decent amount of vacation per year, just the same as someone with much more money than you do gets. They're paid vacations. Your job has security. This is what Bernie Sanders is interested in. It is the most important thing that can happen to any of us, is to have the basic human rights and dignity to live our lives the best way we can and to be the best people we can be. That's what he's talking about when he delivers his speeches. That's why he doesn't use identity politics buzzwords. They don't have any meaning for him. He predates them. If they worked, we should no longer need to use them. We should be living in a sexism-free, racism-free, whatever-free world. Since people are continually saying we don't, this is not the way we need to run the world. Now we can have Trump, who's going to take us back hundreds of years. Because Trump will win against Hillary. Because he's not pandering. He says what he wants and whatever. There are people that I don't know personally, but maybe know on Facebook, who say they would rather vote for Trump than Hillary. And these are Sanders supporters because they dislike Hillary and her nonsense so much. So we've got a real problem if we vote Hillary in based on guilt. Because I know a lot of women feel an odd sense of guilt for not voting for another woman. No, one who lives in her husband cheat on her, one who's been in politics and who is so desperate for this title. I mean, even I feel a little bad about it. And I know she's wrong for the country. She will not help this country. She will continue in the way we have been going. We will continue to run our world on who has the most expensive junk, who politics the best, opportunistically, with various groups, entities, whatever. I don't mean by race, I just mean by where they work. We're going to continue to be a culture that has no soul. And there are a lot of people who don't want to live in a culture that is soulless, even if they don't know that is exactly what they don't want. So when we have a contest in November, if it turns out to be Hillary versus Donald Trump, it is very likely, it doesn't matter how many vaginas vote in her favor, he's going to win. That's not good. That's going to be really scary. This is just my opinion, but it's from seeing a lot of things happen. I believe if people are worried about terrorism, that people who really want to engage in terroristic acts with the United States, with the West, wait for a more right-wing, not left-wing government, because they know that the right-wingers will bomb them, and that will get them more support from the people who dislike the right wing. It happens over and over. It will also, if it's basically evangelical Islam, if they really want a fight between themselves and the West, they're far more likely to get it from Donald Trump than Bernie Sanders. Now, Hillary doesn't care what any, if she's fine, everything's fine. She's going to look at what the polls want and do whatever it says, whether it's right or wrong. She has no sense of right or wrong anymore. She has a sense of entitlement. I think that's most of what I want to say now. So I'm going to try to put some music on for you again. And since I started with Mark Bowen, maybe I will give you, maybe I'll give you The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. I guess I can. And I have to use my extremely fabulous piece of technology here, my lavender rubber glove, to turn the camera off so I can play the music on YouTube without you having to look at my ridiculous reflection. So, or at least it's reflection, which is ridiculous to me. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to play you The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. And then we'll give you some more updates on how the races are going. Yeah. Okay. It's very funny. That's what I gotta do.
Oh, sorry, but I can't take you. Write that down. Yeah, and
this
like
is not quite scott-heron.
Jimmy Reed.
Where did he go? Because I used to own this record.
So my baby's hand. So far. First, thing what had been overlooked, and the poem was called Black History. It said, I was wondering about our yesterdays and started digging through the rubble, and to say the least, somebody went to a hell of a lot of trouble to make sure that when we looked things up, we wouldn't fare too well, and we would come up with totally unreliable portraits of ourselves. But I compiled what few facts I could, such as they are, to see if we could shed a little bit of light, and this is what I got so far. First, white folks discovered Africa, and they claimed it fair and square. Cecil Rhodes couldn't have been robbing nobody because, hell, he said wasn't nobody there. White folks brought all the civilization, they said wasn't none around, because how could these folks over here be civilized when they didn't see nobody writing nothing down? And just to prove all their suspicions, well, it didn't take too long. They found out there were whole groups of people in plain sight running around without much clothes on. That's right. It was women and men and young folks and old folks. Well, righteous folks just covered their eyes. And no time was spent considering the environment. They just said, hell no, this ain't civilized. And another way they knew the folks was backwards, or at least this is how we were taught, is that unlike the very civilized people of Europe, these black groups actually fought. And yes, there was some crude implements, and yes, they had primitive art, and yes, they were masters of hunting and fishing, and courtesy came from the heart. And yes, there was love and medicine, religion, intertribal communication by drum, with no papers and pencils and other utensils, and hell, these folks never even heard of a gun. So this is why the colonies came, to stabilize the land. The dark continent had copper and gold, and the discoverers had themselves a plan. They would discover all the places with promise. You didn't need no titles and deeds. And then you would appoint people to make everything legal, to sanction the trickery and the greed. And back in the jungle, if the natives got restless, well, you call that guerrilla attack. And you never described that some folks might have got wise and decided that they was going to fight back. But still, we are victims of word games. Semantics is always a bitch. Places once called underdeveloped and backwards, they now call them mineral rich. But still, it seems like the game goes on with unity just beyond our reach. Libya and Egypt used to be in Africa. They've been moved to the Middle East. There are examples galore, I assure you. But if interpreting was left up to me, I'd be sure every time folks knew this version wasn't mine, which is why it is called His Story. Black History. Thank you very much. Thank you. You see how we see things and how we relate to it becomes very important. Like, as it was in terms of history, so it is in terms of right now. Like, you see, when I go to see the movies and what have you, I be careful about who I be identifying with. For example, like when I went to see Jaws, I was for Jaws. But Jaws was the home team. Some bitch was in the water, which is where he's supposed to have been. You see? I'm saying now, if Jaws was to come in here, I would be with you grabbing some trying to beat this son bitch back. But Jaws was in the water. This is where sharks are known to be, in the water. You going to the beach, he going to the supermarket. But see, something like that, it just show you why you can't hardly have no black people in no horror movies. Because soon as they found out Jaws was in the water, black people said, no, I'm not going in the water. Jaws is in the water. See, I mean, that's the whole thing about it. That, like, Jaws couldn't catch no black people because we can hear the music. Yeah, here come that goddamn shark with his band. You see, like the idea about how effective or how thoroughly dominant television, for example. See, television, like a lot of black people watch television because they think it's free. See, my grandma used to say, anything I got to watch is dangerous. And then, of course, there's that old ode to paranoia. I thought I was watching TV, and it turned out the TV was watching me. So they got these machines nowadays where you can call people and turn it on a certain station, and if they got the same kind of hookup you can see them, they can see you on the television set. What makes you think you have to call somebody? See, the whole idea became how indelible these marks were going to be on our community and on the way we have dealt with things. We started to look up certain aspects of our history to find out how bluesology, the science, had been mastered and brought to this point. When we started to look at certain aspects of the media as being responsible, we wrote a poem that went like this: you will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. You see, a lot of times people see battles and skirmishes on TV and they say, aha, the revolution is being televised. Nah, the results of the revolution are being televised. The first revolution is when you change your mind about how you look at things and see that there might be another way to look at it that you have not been shown. What you see later on is the results of that, but the revolution, that change that takes place, will not be televised. It will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater or Miller Lite, starring Natalie Wood and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not be televised. Revolution will not be right back after a message about white lightning, white tornadoes, or white people. You will not have to worry about the dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not get rid of the nerves. The revolution will not make you look like you lost 5 pounds. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on reports from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Key, nor sung by Tom Jones, Glenn Campbell, Johnny Cash, or Engelbert Humperdinck, nor none of the other little Humperdinks, should there be any. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, and be no rerun, brothers and sisters. The revolution will be live.
Hi. I will turn that down. And I still can make me cry because I bought that record. That's why it took me so long to find the section, because I was looking for the cover of the one I bought when I was a little kid. I bought that when I was 10 years old, I remember. And it's because my family was involved. I listened to it all the time. And it was, thank you. Thank you. What's on again? You have to show me again. Okay, I wanted to put something on it really meant something to me. And it should mean something to a lot of people. That was here. What we wanted to do at the end is say a couple more things and give you the final results that we have on who's winning in the Democratic race. We all know that Trump is winning pretty much in the Republicans. Right now, what we've got, because she'll tell me, you come up and say,
Massachusetts, he's 47 to 51, but they're not through.
He should win Massachusetts.
Minnesota, 42 to 57, but they're not through reporting. And let's see, it looks like they're still counting, but he won Colorado.
Amazing.
Okay, and then Oklahoma he won, and
that's
Vermont.
Amazing.
So I think the thing is we're going to have to wait to see what happens with Massachusetts and Minnesota, and I think Colorado looks good, but it's
Minnesota is sad. The other one, Massachusetts,
and I think also
lots of rich people there.
Yeah, actually in Minnesota at the moment, Marco Rubio for the Republicans is leading.
We finally got but he's so young.
I know.
And he's good looking, but I mean, no, you couldn't have a Marco Rubio president. You wouldn't know what to do with anything. Don't even start. I mean, he's not Trump, but I mean, to me, Cruz is like the head of the debate team in, when you're in 12th grade, and Rubio is like the football team captain, the head of, I don't remember what they ran because I had no interest in high school. I was out of it by the time I was 14. I didn't care. But, the homecoming king. It's like voting for the homecoming king or the captain of the debate team. As is. I wouldn't vote for either one of those things if you gave me a cheese sandwich and $1 million on top of it. But, okay. There is talking about the last thing I was going to say was small. I think I was going to talk about class because I think about that a lot.
The fact that it isn't part of the debate.
And it has not been part of the debate. I mean, it is what Bernie Sanders is talking about when he talks about raising the votes. When he talks about economic theory, he's talking class. But we cannot bring this into discussion, because if we do, we will have to question the commitment of someone who makes the kind of money that Hillary Clinton makes. We can't talk about that. Bernie Sanders is reclined, and he will not drag her the way she has begun to drag him. And her supporters, of course, in the mainstream press, and no, not mainstream press. Occasionally, Mother Jones, in my opinion, because I come from a labor background, should change its name right now, because they have been obscene in their support of the very rich man, who cares nothing whatsoever. She cares less about poor people than I care about which way I wear my hat. And I think that poverty and the war on drugs, which are exceptionally entwined, should be extremely important in this election. Because also both of those are entwined with, yes, race and class and the prison industrial complex, which has far too much control in this country. And it's odd to me that we do not talk about it much. I won't talk about it much here because it's worth another broadcast of its own. There's a whole bunch of junk in my background. Maybe sometime we'll hold up some of my clothes because it's my one self-indulgence. And that's what you're seeing. You can't focus on the monitor on the cat castle.
The cats are hiding.
The cats are hiding. So
Go try to find one.
Like, we'll see the cats next time. Eddie Van Halen gave me my cats. And that's another thing that's true, and it's very fun. I have a funny life. The last thing I wanted to say, let's see. I think I'm going to end it there, actually, because most of the stuff I want to talk about also does concern what I said, race and class, mostly class. I want class issues brought into this election because you've got to also understand that bizarrely, and this is to me extremely bizarre, and it comes from the Reagan Revolution, quotes. A lot of poor people are voting for Donald Trump. And that's as far against their own interests as is possible. There isn't anyone who makes less than, at this point, $75,000 a year for their whole family who should be voting for anyone but Bernie Sanders. He cares about individuals. He doesn't care about presidents. And he knows what I know, what she knows, what most people really know when they think about it. That yes, economic theory is the way out for most people. It's the way up the ladder. It is how we live. Everything else is just as phony as my fade-ins and fade-outs. No, it's a rubber glove. Anyway, I'll put you on another song. That is Cider Witch. I'll be back. What?
Is it fate?
Fade to glove. Exactly. Here we go. You'll have to wait for me talking. Oh, I can give you this one. This is the Bugs. Didn't have what I wanted, which was Last Slum Goddess. Slum Goddess on the Lower East Side. Last one's me.
Who can kill a general in his bed? Overthrow dictators if they're red. Fucking amen. CIA man. Who can buy a government so cheap? Change a cabinet without a squeak. Amen. CIA man. Who can train gorillas by the dozens? Send them out to kill their own concussions. Fucking amen. CIA CIA man. Who can get a budget that's so great? Who will be the 51st state? Who has got the secretest service? The one that makes the other service nervous. Fucking man. CIA man. Who can take the sugar from its sack? Pour in LSD and put it back. Fucking A man. CIA man. Who can mind the harvest Nicaragua? Out hit all the hitmen of Chicago. Fucking A man. CIA man. Who can be so overtly covert? Sometimes even covertly overt. Fucking A man. CIA man. Who's the agency well known to God? The one that got the staff and got the rod. Fucking A man. CIA man. Fucking A man. CIA man. Fucking A man. CIA man. CIA man. CIA man. CIA
Okay? That is the end of my broadcast for today, but I'm going to play you one more song. I'm going to play it now because I wouldn't be able to play it without crying. Here. Not that you'll get next time. This one I may have seen when we sang. Probably some with my parents. And I'm going to give you this one. You can put now, but goodbye.
Real old one here too. Anybody knows it, you're welcome to help me out. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, live as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. In Salt Lake, Joe, by God, says I, him standing by my bed. They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead. Says Joe, but I ain't dead. The copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe, I didn't die. Says Joe, I didn't die. And standing there as big as life, smiling with his eyes, Joe says what they forgot to kill went on to organize, went on to organize. eyes. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers strike and organize, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, light as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he.
Now, good night for real. I am going to stop the broadcast. I wasn't kidding. If you'd like to hear the music that I play in my show, I have a playlist that has a whole lot more, and I'll be adding more playlists, and I'll be adding more broadcasts with Jamie probably, because I can't do the tech very well. It's strange to have a 200 IQ. Well, I'll explain that later. Well, I can do the tech, but I can't do both at the same time. Thank you for listening if you did, and this will be available. I don't think I'm going to throw it away, no matter how horrible I look. P.S. If I look really horrible, it's because of the DPI. I don't know. I can't remember the word. In graphics, it's because it's picking up stuff, artifacts that are there. All right. Okay. I'll shut up. Thank you. Vote for Bernie Sanders. Do it. Do it for you. Do it for me. Do it for everybody. We need it. We need him.